What's going on, guys? It's me, JV, coming to you live from my parents' house. I'm actually visiting my parents this week. This is actually my first video in 2022, and I just wanted to wish everyone that's watching this video a happy New Year. Hoping for good health, hoping for everybody to be able to achieve all of their resolutions at year's end, and above all, living living a great life, living life to the fullest. So anyway, just wanted to give my review of Lima, Peru, the Inca capital, a trip that I actually took back in September of 2021. Which, by the way, originally I did not plan to go to Lima, but um, originally what I wanted to do was to go to Santiago de Chile, which happened in. Um I originally purchased a ticket to travel down there in June of 2021, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic and everything that we've been going through for the last almost 2 years now, for the last 22 months, the country actually shut down its borders to tourists, incoming tourists. So I couldn't actually make it to the country. And so what I did was I pretty much got tired of waiting and decided instead to change my destination. And I was able to convince the airline to switch it over to Lima. And I must say that, as I said, I was there for about 10 days, from the 13th to the 23rd of September. I must say that I really didn't enjoy the city that much, uh, mainly because there wasn't really much to do in terms of places to see, tourist attractions, and you know, I thought that the city was, as far as the expenses is concerned, it was a pretty affordable city, pretty much like the other Latin American cities that I've gone to. The uh, the cost of living was very reasonable. It's probably the cheapest Airbnb that I was able to book out of all the trips that I've made in the recent in 2021. Basically, I paid about $120 for my total stay, and like I mentioned, I was there for 10 days. Um, but So the cost of living was great. The food was very good. The Peruvian cuisine is very well known worldwide. It definitely meets its its hype. I really did enjoy all of the dishes that they served, even though I got sick. I had stomach problems for a couple of days, but I think it's because, not necessarily because of the food, but because of an alcoholic beverage that I had, which I will get to shortly describing. But anyway, I stayed in a neighborhood called Los Olivos, which is about, I want to say it's about 10 minutes away from the airport, driving distance from the airport, and that's mainly one of the main reasons why I decided to stay there. Um, which was a big mistake, to tell you the truth. And the reason why it was a big mistake, it's because even though it was close to the airport, it was pretty far away from all the tourist attractions. And so, in my you know, in my effort to try and save money, uh, initially when I traveled from the airport to my destination, I completely failed to look at the big picture, and I didn't realize how far Los Olivos neighborhood was from the main tourist attractions, mainly Miraflores, which is their uh, their upscale neighborhood, the richest neighborhood really in the entire city, and where all the um, where all the activity was taking place by and large. Lima is it's a coastal city. It's right next to the Pacific Ocean, so you can literally see the Pacific Ocean when you reach that part of the city, and it's really nice. I actually uploaded a couple of videos on my escapades down there on my channel here. And it's right. It's a coastal city. Like I said, it's right there to the Pacific Ocean, and so it's really nice. But every time I travel down there, it would take me about 45 minutes, and I would have to pay anywhere between 40 to 50 soles, which and convert when you convert it to dollars, one American dollar is the equivalent of about 4 soles, or at least that was a conversion back in September of last year. So I paid about anywhere between $10 to $15 per ride. I actually use the shared drive app called Didi, which is a Chinese-based app that operates pretty much everywhere except here in the United States. But that's what I was using for my transportation. They don't have a metro system in Lima, as opposed to other cities that I've been to in the past. But that's basically that was my means of transportation. And even though it's cheap, it wasn't that cheap for me because of the distance. Because, like I mentioned, it took me a while to get to Miraflores, to get to Barranco. The weather, as far as the weather is concerned, very similar to San Francisco. I don't know if you guys are familiar with San Francisco, but another city that's right next to the Pacific Ocean, and so therefore you get a lot of the marine layer coming in, and it's constantly overcast. There's a lot of fog. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When I was in Lima, I only saw the sun peaked about two days out of the 10 that I was there, and the sun only came out for about 2 hours per day. So I literally didn't see the sun at all during my 10-day period, which for me personally, I love the cold weather, so it wasn't a big impediment. But for a lot of people that actually like, sunny days and nice mild to warm weather, Lima's probably not the best place for you to be in. Maybe not, between January and June, it's really nice, the weather. It actually changes, it flips. And all of a sudden you get a lot of sunlight pretty much the entire 6 months. But because I went in the month of September, which is like the winter season, or just getting out of the winter season down there in Lima, it was really overcast at all times. As far as the neighborhoods that you want to go to, like I mentioned, Miraflores is probably the best place to be. There's a variety of different things that you can do down there. There's a boardwalk where you can walk. There's a lot of restaurants there where you can eat. They have a very fancy, very interesting looking mall, because it's a shopping mall that's multi-layered, and it's called La Comar. So if you go to La Comar shopping mall, you can actually do shopping there. You can go to department stores and buy clothes or whatever. And you can actually dine as well, because there's a lot of restaurants right next to the coast. They have a lot of high-end hotels there as well. I think they have the Marriott and the Hilton Hotel right next to the mall. But because I didn't stay there, I really didn't get an opportunity to look at the various hotels, as well as the Airbnbs and such. But if you're going to Lima, that's the first place you want to visit, is Miraflores. You basically come down the coast, which is called, I think it's called Costa Verde, the Green Coast in English, but it's called Costa Verde, and you basically see the entire neighborhood. It takes you from Miraflores, excuse me, down to another very famous neighborhood called, it's not Chorrillos, but it's called Barranco, which is like a hill. And in Barranco, you actually get to see a lot of nice and neat little houses. It's like a very colorful place. It's a very colorful neighborhood. Uh, very classical looking views. There's a couple of churches there as well. You can walk around, take pictures. It's really nice. It's a very neat area as well. Another place where you want to go to obviously is the center, the downtown area, which is called the Centro de Lima, where you can go to Plaza de San Martin. Plaza de San Martin it's like one of the main squares there in Lima. It's like a big time plaza, and it's right next to the government palace, which is actually located in Plaza de Armas. But when I went to Lima, for whatever reason, the entire plaza was cordoned off, so you couldn't even access the main square there. You actually were just hanging out in the perimeter. And one of the buildings there in Plaza San Martin actually has like a tunnel, a tunnel that takes you down, very similar to what they have in Ciudad de Mexico or in Mexico City, where you can actually see some ruins, some Inca ruins in the bottom of that building. It's very neat. I didn't get an opportunity to go down there because, like I said, it was cordoned off. But I did get some information from the locals there in Lima that they actually have some very interesting archaeological artifacts from the Inca civilization that you can actually tour around and take pictures and get to see. The food is really nice. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, they have obviously their most famous dish is probably what they call the ceviche, which is like fish, raw fish, and you actually eat it with salt and lemon, lime, salt, a little bit of sauce, hot sauce, and it's very delicious. And you really can't go wrong. Any restaurant that you go to, that's probably the first item on the menu that you're going to see is the ceviche, and they actually have a couple of other dishes that are also very delicious. Unfortunately, it's skipping my mind right now. I probably should have memorized the name, but it's really good food. There's also a very popular drink that's called chicha morada, which it's like grape juice. It's much better than grape juice, but that's probably the best description or comparison that I can come up with to describe this beverage. And I highly recommend it if you do go to Lima and you want to get something to drink. That's probably something that I would encourage you to drink along with your meal. It's very delicious. It's very sweet. It has corn content as well. And for you guys that like alcoholic beverages, there's another very popular drink that is very well known, not just in Peru, but also in neighboring countries like Ecuador and Colombia, which is called pisco. Pisco is like a margarita. It's a pretty bittersweet drink. It has cinnamon. You can actually pour some cinnamon at the top. Unfortunately, that drink actually made me sick. I don't know why it was, but I got actually sick. Maybe because I'm a person that normally doesn't drink any alcohol at all whatsoever, and so because that was my first alcoholic beverage that I've had in probably over a decade, it got to me. It really upset my stomach, and I was down for a couple of days. But it was pretty good. It was pretty delicious. I liked the taste, and yeah, you definitely want to try that. They actually have a museum there in downtown Lima, where you can actually drink a bunch of different beverages that are very popular and are consumed. Constantly consumed by the local Peruvians there, but I definitely highly recommend that. And then next to that museum, They also have like a cacao, like a chocolate museum, where you go in and they give you a bunch of samples of a variety of different uh, chocolate items that you can eat, that you can taste. Is very very good, very sweet, and yeah, I mean those basically are the things that I can think of that that you can actually do there in the city in Lima. I wasn't too impressed. I probably you know probably wouldn't go back there again, just because again I similar to what I said about Medellin, Colombia. I pretty much saw everything that you needed to see. I was there for 10 days. I didn't go anywhere else. You can actually take a if you wanna go to the Machu Picchu, which is one of their probably the most famous archaeological area in the entire country. You can actually catch a plane and fly to Cusco, which is where the ruins are located. It's about a 1.5 to 2 hour flight. You can also go to another city, which is called Arequipa, which is about an hour and a half. The weather in both of these areas is probably a lot better than Lima is. Not as cold as Lima is. The only problem with Cusco is that the elevation is about 10,000 feet above sea level. So you have to get acclimated. You have to get acclimated to the altitude first before you can really do anything else around the city. And when I was there, the locals, the taxi drivers primarily, would tell me that if I wanted to go to Cusco, they advised me to actually ride the bus instead of flying down there, because if you were able to ride the bus, the impact of the altitude, especially if you're not used to that, would be less severe than if, for instance, you flew down there, you got off the plane, and all of a sudden it just hit you. You just basically went from 0 to 10,000 feet above sea level in a matter of an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it would normally take you about a day to adapt. Some people actually get sick. Some people actually have difficulty breathing because of the lack of oxygen. But it is definitely a very good place to visit. It's probably the most popular destination, obviously, in the entire country. It's a little bit more expensive than Lima, but I think it's probably worth going. And if I ever went back to Peru, I probably would go to Cusco next. But as far as the capital is concerned, I probably wouldn't go back to Lima. The topography is totally opposite to what other cities that I've visited. It's basically sitting in a desert. It's basically sitting on a desert, which explains why everything looked very very dry, very brown. There wasn't a whole lot of vegetation, um, and so that combined with the fact that uh, the forecast or the weather was always foggy and overcast, made the city look a little bit sad. It just didn't. It looked very bland. There wasn't anything special about Lima. Um, but the pricing, the cost of living overall was very good. The food was excellent. Uh, Miraflores, like I mentioned, is a beautiful, beautiful place. Really nice. The views are just spectacular. The scenery is great. There's a lot of tourists there, as you can imagine. The traffic is extremely chaotic as well. So when you're riding in a taxi or in a shared driver app type of a vehicle, uh, because especially if you're not accustomed to going to Latin American cities, and you're not used to the traffic, it is extremely chaotic. You gotta really fasten your seatbelts and hold your breath, because it seems like everybody's on the verge of getting into an accident, but the drivers know what they're doing. But it is very chaotic, and you just gotta get used to it. So anyway, that was basically a brief rundown of my experience down there in Lima, Peru. I was there, like I mentioned, for 10 days. And if you've never been there, I definitely recommend you check it out. You know, even if it's for one day, for one time that you're gonna be traveling, even if it's for one day, you know, because a lot of people actually that go to Peru, uh, typically the airport there in Lima serves as a layover destination to other Latin American cities or South American cities, I should say, or other cities within the country. So a lot of people go to Cusco, but they do a layover in Lima and they stay there for about a day, or they stay there about 6 hours layovers, and then they fly over to Cusco or to other destinations. So a lot of people get to get out of the airport and get to see the city in a span of 6 hours to a day. So I would recommend the city to go out there and check it out for yourself and see what you think. But anyway, that was basically, in a nutshell, the my experience there in Lima. Another place that I would recommend is a park called Park Kennedy or Parque Kennedy, which is also in Miraflores. It's very popular, very nice. There's a bunch of restaurants around it, a lot of activity, a lot of nightclubs, a lot of bars. There's a lot of streets that are adjacent to Parque Kennedy where you can enjoy the nightlife. That's another place that I would recommend you guys check out. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.